Chapter 1. The City Breathes Smoke. The rain hadn't stopped in 3 nights. Gotham was drowning again, and the water poured down the crumbling brick faces of old factories and abandoned warehouses like the city itself was trying to wash away its sins. But Gotham didn't repent. Gotham never did. It only rotted piece by piece until the stench became part of the air. From the rooftops, Batman could see it all. The neon glow of the East End flickered against the mist like a warning sign, and the deeper shadows of the Narrows writhed with things best left unseen. Somewhere out there, someone was bleeding. Someone was taking what didn't belong to them, and someone else was pretending not to notice. Gotham was alive, but it lived like a sick animal, teeth bared, cornered, and feral. Batman crouched on the ledge of a rusted water tower, cape pulling tight against his body in the wind. The city whispered beneath him. Sirens cried out like wolves in the distance. Tires screamed as someone fled down wet pavement. He listened, and he knew where to go. It started with a call from Gordon.
Another body,
the commissioner had said, his voice thick with coffee and sleepless nights.
Alley behind Harlow's on 7th. Female, 20-something. No ID. Same MO.
That was 2 hours ago. Now, Batman stood above the crime scene, unseen in the night. Below, the alley was taped off, washed in the cold strobe of flashing red and blue lights. Uniforms moved with grim precision, trying to make order out of something senseless. The body lay covered under a black sheet, but the dark stain spreading into the puddles told him enough. Gordon smoked just outside the tape, rain flattening his hair, his trench coat hanging heavy from his shoulders. He looked older every time Batman saw him, like the job was etching lines into his skin one sleepless night at a time.
3rd this month,
Gordon muttered when the shadow fell across him. He didn't flinch. He never did anymore.
Same cuts. Same placement. Killer's sending us a message, but damned if I can figure out what it is.
Batman didn't answer right away. He stepped into the alley, silent as the darkness itself. The uniform shifted uneasily, but didn't stop him. By now, they knew better. He knelt by the sheet, lifting it back just far enough to study the pale face beneath. The victim's eyes were open, staring at nothing. Clean incisions across her cheeks, like an artist sketching lines no one else could see.
A pattern,
Batman said, voice low, gravel scraping against the rain. Gordon joined him, squinting through the smoke of his cigarette.
Tell me you see something I don't.
Batman traced the shape of the cuts with his eyes. Precise, intentional, not rage, not random. Someone wanted to leave a signature.
It's deliberate,
he said.
Surgical.
His jaw tightened.
And escalating.
The commissioner cursed under his breath.
Gotham's got enough freaks. Last thing we need is another one carving up the streets.
Batman said nothing. His mind was already working, filing away details. The angle of the cuts, the location of the body, the way the killer staged it. A puzzle forming in the shadows. Somewhere out there, someone thought they were clever. Someone thought they could play games in his city. The rain fell harder, washing the blood into the gutter. And Batman promised himself one thing. He would find whoever did this. And when he did, Gotham's shadows would close in around them like a coffin. Chapter 2. A Message in Flesh. The cave was colder than usual tonight. Or maybe it was just him. Batman stood in the glow of the Bat computer, rain still dripping from his cape onto the stone floor. The hum of machinery filled the silence, screens alive with files, maps, and autopsy reports. On the central monitor, the woman's face stared back at him, pale and empty. The latest victim. Another ghost added to Gotham's ledger. He zoomed in on the crime scene photos, fingers dancing over the keyboard with mechanical precision. The cuts were too perfect, too deliberate, surgical. They formed lines like coordinates across the skin. At first glance, they seemed random. But Batman had learned long ago, nothing in Gotham was ever random. Alfred's footsteps echoed softly behind him.
You've had 3 cups of coffee and haven't so much as blinked in 2 hours,
the butler said. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed concern.
One would think you were preparing for an exam rather than chasing a madman.
Batman didn't look away from the screen.
This isn't madness,
He said.
it's design.
Alfred approached, setting down a fresh tray. Tea, untouched, already going cold.
And what, pray tell, is the design?
Batman leaned closer to the monitor. His gloved hand traced the image of the wound. The scalpel had cut at a shallow depth, not enough to kill outright. The victim bled out because the killer intended it. A cruel patience. Then he saw it, so faint it might have been missed by anyone else. Not a single incision, but a series. Letters. A carving hidden in plain sight. Batman magnified the wound until the pixels blurred. The outline was clear now. HL2 initials.
Letters.
He muttered.
He's leaving a message.
Alfred's brow furrowed.
HLA, name?
Possibly, or an alias.
Batman's mind sifted through the database. Surgeons, orderlies, doctors struck from the rolls, inmates who once worked in Gotham's broken institutions. Nothing immediate surfaced, but the seed was planted. He moved to the evidence table. The victim's belongings, recovered from the alley, lay neatly arranged. A torn purse, a cracked phone, a silver locket snapped open. He studied each detail with the focus of a man dissecting a puzzle no one else could see. The phone was waterlogged, but salvageable. Batman connected it to the console, scrolling through texts, calls, photos. Nothing unusual until the last message, sent an hour before her death. Meet me on 7th. Don't be late. We'll make you beautiful. Batman's jaw clenched. The sender was unlisted, disposable burner. But the phrasing told him enough. We'll make you beautiful. The cuts weren't just signatures. They were attempts at correction, as if the killer thought he was fixing something broken.
A surgeon's obsession.
Batman said.
Perfection through mutilation.
Alfred glanced at the photo again, his voice quieter now.
Master Bruce, whoever this is, they're not only killing, they're practicing.
Batman turned back to the screen, eyes narrowing.
And practice means they're building toward something bigger.
The cave seemed to grow darker as the thought settled. Gotham wasn't dealing with a madman chasing chaos. This was someone with discipline, someone with skill, and someone who believed their work was more than murder. The rain outside hammered the cave like a metronome counting down. The surgeon, whoever they were, had made their first mistake by leaving a message. Batman would find the meaning, and when he did, the shadow of Gotham would fall like a blade. Chapter 3, Whispers in the Narrows. The Narrows stank of rust, cheap liquor, and desperation. It was Gotham stripped bare. No neon glamour, no towering glass. Just cracked pavement, collapsing tenements, and the kind of darkness that swallowed a man whole. Batman moved through it like smoke, his boots silent against the rain-slick rooftops. Below, the Narrows pulsed with life. Dealers hunched in doorways, addicts chasing ghosts in alleyways, and gangs carving out territory like wolves gnawing at scraps. If Gotham was a wound, the Narrows was the infection, and infections always spread. The killer's message still clawed at his mind. HL, 2 letters. No clear connection, but someone out here had to know something. In Gotham, secrets never stayed buried. They were traded, sold, whispered through cracked teeth in bars that smelled of rot gut and regret. He dropped into an alley, cape trailing behind him like the shadow of some ancient predator. A man startled awake from his nest of newspapers, eyes going wide, but Batman was already gone, melting into the dark. His destination was an old dive called the Red Lantern, a place where information flowed faster than the whiskey and was worth 10 times as much. Inside, the bar reeked of sweat and stale beer. Dim bulbs buzzed overhead, casting sickly yellow light over scarred tables and faces that hadn't seen daylight in years. Music droned low from a broken jukebox, the same song it had been stuck on for weeks. Conversations faltered when he entered. Not loudly, just enough for a ripple of fear to pass through the room. No one ran, though. Running was worse. Running marked you guilty. Batman strode past the bar without a word, stopping at a corner table where a small-time hustler named Rizzo sat nursing a glass of something clear and poisonous. Rizzo had been on Batman's radar for months, not important enough to lock up, but useful enough to watch. He had ears in places most men didn't survive long enough to hear.
Evening.
Batman growled. Rizzo nearly choked on his drink.
Christ.
He coughed, trying to steady his hands.
You can't just... Hell, man, you're gonna stop my heart one of these days.
Batman leaned closer, the cowl's shadow swallowing the man whole.
Start talking.
About what?
Rizzo squeaked.
The surgeon.
Rizzo froze, eyes darting left and right, his lips pressed tight like a man deciding whether silence was worth broken bones. Then he leaned forward, whispering fast.
Word is, someone's paying top dollar for fresh faces, not just dead ones. People go missing. They come back stitched up, cut open like someone tried to, fix them.
Batman's jaw tightened.
Fix them how?
Rizzo swallowed.
Like plastic surgery, but wrong, twisted. I heard about a guy, some dealer out of Burnley, went under for a nose job, came back looking like someone carved him up with a butter knife. A couple days later, he turned up in the river.
The Bat's eyes narrowed.
Who's paying?
Rizzo shook his head furiously.
Don't know. Don't want to know. But people been calling him the surgeon, like it's some kind of legend now, only shows up at night. Got guys snatching people off the street, bringing them to, hell, I don't even know where.
He lowered his voice even further.
Narrows is buzzing, though. Everyone's scared, even the gangs.
Batman let the silence stretch until Rizzo squirmed under his gaze. Finally, he pulled back just enough for the hustler to breathe again.
Where?
Batman demanded. Rizzo hesitated. Then, with a shaky hand, he slid a matchbook across the table. Ironworks, it read. A rusted-out foundry on the Narrow's east edge.
People go in.
Rizzo whispered.
Don't come out.
Batman vanished before Rizzo could blink. By the time the hustler looked up, the chair was empty and the room was quiet again, as though the night itself had swallowed the dark night whole. Outside, the rain came harder. Batman moved across the rooftops, faster now, the city rushing past in streaks of neon and shadow. A new lead, a new trail, and maybe, finally, a face to the name. Somewhere in the heart of the Narrows, a surgeon was practicing on Gotham's flesh, and Batman was going to cut the infection out. Chapter 4: False Leads. The Wayne Manor Ballroom hadn't hosted a gala in years, yet tonight its chandeliers blazed to life, scattering light across polished marble and expensive gowns. A sea of tuxedos and diamonds shimmered beneath the golden glow. Charity, always a palatable excuse for Gotham's elite to drink top-shelf liquor while congratulating themselves for caring. Bruce Wayne moved among them with the easy grace of a man who belonged, though inside his skin it felt like wearing another mask. The Playboy smile came as easily as breathing, a carefully practiced shield. Glass of champagne in one hand, the other tucked into the pocket of his tailored suit, he was every inch the charming heir. No one looking at him would ever believe he'd spent the past 3 nights combing through crime scene photos under the glow of the Bat computer.
Bruce, darling.
A voice sang from his left. A woman in pearls pressed a kiss to his cheek, perfume heavy as roses.
So good of you to host again. Gotham needs more nights like these.
Bruce smiled.
Gotham always needs something.
She laughed, not catching the bite in his words, and floated off toward another circle of conversation. Bruce's eyes, however, weren't on her. They were on the far end of the room, where a small crowd had gathered around a young man with sandy hair and a bright, eager face. Dr. Henry Lyle, newly hired surgical consultant at Gotham General. Bruce had made sure to memorize the name. Lyle had published papers in obscure journals, all circling around the same obsession: reconstruction. He'd written about perfection, symmetry, how the human form could be improved. It was the kind of language Batman had seen before, carved into flesh. Lyle was speaking animatedly to a group of patrons, hands moving with precise confidence.
The future of medicine is correction.
Bruce overheard as he drifted closer.
Not simply healing what's broken, but elevating, making people better.
A shiver ran beneath the mask of Bruce Wayne's smile. Making people better. The exact phrasing echoed the message on the victim's phone. He let the group disperse before stepping in.
Dr. Lyle, isn't it?
Bruce asked, extending a hand. The young surgeon turned, surprised, but pleased.
Mr. Wayne, an honor, sir. I've admired your contributions to Gotham General's funding. Your support keeps our research alive.
Just doing my part,
Bruce said lightly, shaking his hand. The grip was firm, practiced, clinical. Lyle's eyes were sharp behind the politeness, the eyes of a man dissecting everything he saw.
You've taken quite an interest in reconstruction.
Bruce continued, keeping the tone casual.
Ambitious field.
Lyle smiled.
Ambition drives progress, doesn't it? People always think surgeons should be satisfied with repairing damage, but there's more we can do. Perfection is within reach if we're willing to cut away the flaws.
Bruce tilted his head, the smile never leaving his lips, though inside the words rang like an alarm.
Cut away the flaws. That sounds dangerous.
Only to those unwilling to change,
Lyle said smoothly. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added,
But Gotham is full of flaws, isn't it? Endless opportunities to practice.
Bruce excused himself after a polite exchange, but the name and the words burned into his mind. Henry Lyle, H.L. the initials carved into the victim's flesh. Coincidence was a luxury Gotham never afforded him. As he drifted toward the balcony, Alfred intercepted him with a tray of untouched hors d'oeuvres. His eyes flicked to Bruce's expression and tightened with unspoken understanding.
Another mask, Master Bruce.
Alfred murmured. Bruce set down his champagne.
Not a mask, a suspect.
Outside, rain began to patter against the windows. Gotham's storm was never far away, even in marble halls. And as Bruce Wayne returned to the crowd, the detective inside him sharpened his focus. The surgeon had initials. Now he had a face. But Gotham loved its illusions, and faces were rarely what they seemed. Chapter 5. The Fourth Body. The Gotham Gazette stood tall on Grant Avenue, its stone facade soaked by rain that hadn't stopped in days. The city's voice, once noble, now frayed by sensationalism and fear. Tonight, that voice was silenced, because someone had left a corpse on its doorstep. Batman stood across the street on a rooftop, cape lashing in the wind, watching the chaos unfold below. Squad cars angled their lights across the building, painting the wet pavement red and blue. Reporters shoved microphones in Gordon's face, their shouted questions cutting through the storm. Uniforms pushed the crowd back, but the crowd kept pressing closer, hungry for blood, hungry for answers. The body lay exposed, not even covered by a sheet. A young man this time, barely 20. His shirt was torn open, his chest carved with the same clean surgical precision. Not hidden in an alley, not discarded like refuse, displayed. Batman's jaw tightened. Escalation. He dropped into the shadows, silent as the rain, and moved toward Gordon. The commissioner didn't flinch when the shadow fell across him. He just dragged a hand down his weathered face and muttered,
Hell of a way to make the morning edition.
Batman crouched beside the body. The cuts were bolder now, deeper, as though the killer had grown more confident. The letters were clearer, too. HL etched into the skin like a signature at the bottom of a masterpiece. A claim of ownership.
He's not hiding anymore.
Batman said. His voice was a low growl swallowed by the storm. Gordon lit a cigarette, rain dripping from the brim of his hat.
Number. He's taunting us. Placing this here, in front of the press. He wants an audience. Wants everyone to know Gotham belongs to him now.
Batman studied the victim's eyes, still open, glazed over. A whisper of terror lingered there. The young man had known what was happening, and that knowledge had killed him before the scalpel did. The bat's gloved hand brushed the edges of the cuts, precise, deliberate. A message carved in flesh, louder than any headline.
He wants recognition.
Batman said.
A stage. The city is his theater.
Gordon exhaled smoke that curled into the rain.
Then we've got a serial killer with a flair for the dramatic. Just what Gotham needs.
His voice cracked on the sarcasm. He looked older tonight, weary.
And the mayor's office is breathing down my neck. They want a name by the end of the week. They want to feel safe enough to sleep. You think I can give them that?
Batman rose, towering over the scene, cape dripping water into the gutter.
Not yet.
The commissioner ground out his cigarette and swore under his breath.
I'm getting pressure from every angle. Half my detectives think it's some psycho out of Arkham. The other half think it's some cult. And now,
He gestured to the corpse.
now the whole damn city knows we can't stop him.
Batman said nothing. He let the silence weigh heavy, like a judge's gavel. His mind was already working. The initials, the obsession with perfection, the timing of the kills. The surgeon was accelerating, growing bolder, and Bruce Wayne had shaken hands with a man whose initials fit the wounds perfectly. Gordon noticed his stillness.
You've got something.
He said, not a question. Batman turned his eyes toward the flashing lights, the hungry cameras.
A lead.
Then for God's sake, chase it before he makes his fifth.
The rain hammered down, drowning the city in noise. Batman pulled the shadows around him and vanished from the commissioner's side. High above, he rose into the storm, heading toward the only trail he had. The surgeon had chosen the spotlight. Now Gotham itself was watching, and Batman would be waiting when the curtain fell. Chapter 6. Blood in the Water. The ironworks sat like a rusted carcass at the edge of the Narrows, its broken smokestacks clawing at the storm clouds. Long abandoned, the foundry had become a haven for Gotham's forgotten. Junkies, squatters, men with nowhere left to crawl. But Batman knew better. Places like this didn't stay empty. They just changed owners. The matchbook Rizzo had given him wasn't just a clue. It was an invitation. Batman slipped inside through a shattered skylight, cape billowing against the rain. The air reeked of mildew and iron. His boots landed silently on the catwalk, eyes narrowing as he scanned the shadows below. Rusted machinery loomed like skeletons, gears frozen in time. But among the rot, there were signs of life. A light glowed faintly at the far end. Not a lantern, not fire. Fluorescent, harsh and clinical. Out of place. He moved closer, body low, breath controlled. Voices drifted through the cavernous space, muffled but distinct. Men arguing. He caught fragments. Too many bodies. Money's good. He's not finished yet. Batman descended, following the sound. The light came from a makeshift room walled off with torn tarps and scavenged plywood. Inside, the hum of medical equipment broke the silence. He stopped just shy of the entrance, listening. A figure emerged. A man in a blood-stained apron, sleeves rolled up, hands shaking as he stuffed files into a crate. Not the surgeon, a lackey. Batman dropped silently behind him, one gloved hand clamping over the man's mouth, the other twisting his wrist until the scalpel clattered to the floor.
Talk.
Batman growled into his ear. The man bucked and writhed until Batman tightened his grip, forcing air from his lungs. Terror replaced defiance. He nodded. Batman released his mouth, just enough for words.
We are working for him.
The man stammered.
He pays good money. Brings in the people, says they need fixing. We patch him, but he does the cuts. Always the cuts.
The surgeon.
Batman said. The man's teeth chattered.
That's what they call him. Don't know his name, don't wanna. He's obsessed. Talks about beauty like it's a religion. Like we're priests and the knife's the scripture.
Batman's eyes flicked to the crate of files.
What are these?
Stolen from the hospital. Patient records, photos. He studies them, says everyone's broken somehow. Says he'll put them back together better than before.
The man's voice cracked.
But they never come back. Never.
Batman bound him to a pipe with flex cuffs, then cracked open the crate. Inside, folders bulged with stolen medical histories, photographs clipped to each one. He flipped through them quickly, dozens of names, dozens of faces, and scrawled across the margins in tight, precise handwriting. Notes on symmetry, bone structure, surgical flaws. Some files were already stamped with a red X. Victims. At the bottom of the stack, he found something worse. Blueprints. Detailed diagrams of Gotham General's surgical wing. Entrances, exits, operating theaters. Highlighted in red was one phrase: the theater of perfection. The storm outside howled through broken windows. Batman's fist clenched, crumpling the paper slightly. The surgeon wasn't just cutting in the shadows anymore. He was planning something grander, something public. Batman rose, cape spreading behind him like the wings of a predator.
Your employer made a mistake,
He said to the terrified lackey. The man swallowed.
What mistake?
Batman's eyes were fire in the dark.
He left a trail.
And with that, the Dark Knight disappeared into the storm, files in hand, already piecing together the next move. Somewhere in Gotham, blood was waiting to be spilled, and Batman could smell it in the water. Chapter 7. A Surgeon's Signature. The cave was silent, but for the whir of computers and the dripping of water into deep stone pools. Rain battered the manor above, muted thunder rolling across the hills. Gotham itself seemed restless tonight, like the city knew the knife hovered closer to its throat. Batman sat before the console, the stolen files spread across the table in grim rows. Dozens of faces stared back at him. Ordinary men and women reduced to catalogs of imperfections. Each photo was marked with precise notes: asymmetrical jawline, deviated septum, crooked teeth, scars. Cold judgments in a surgeon's hand. Alfred hovered nearby, a tea tray untouched. He leaned forward to glance at the papers, his expression tightening.
Like a butcher appraising cattle,
He said softly. Batman didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on one file in particular. The latest victim, the young man left at the Gazette. In the surgeon's notes, scrawled in black ink, was a phrase that sent a chill down even the Dark Knight's spine.
Flawed but promising. The performance must be public.
Batman rose and moved to the secondary console, pulling up the autopsy photos again. He overlaid them with the surgeon's scribbles, mapping cut to comment. And there it was. The same hand that wrote the notes had etched the flesh. The angle, the symmetry. This wasn't rage. This was artistry, practiced over and over. Alfred cleared his throat.
if I may, sir. The handwriting. Clinical. Precise. Not unlike a surgeon's notes I've seen from my days patching soldiers. Whoever this man is, he's trained.
Batman's jaw tightened.
That narrows the field.
He pulled up a database of Gotham's licensed surgeons, scrolling through names and faces. Henry Lyle's photo appeared, young, bright-eyed, standing beside Gotham General's banner. Bruce could still hear his words from the gala. Cut away the flaws. His initials matched the wounds. His obsession with perfection was public record. But Batman didn't trust easy answers. Gotham was a city of masks, and the obvious suspect was rarely the true one. He cross-referenced with another name, Dr. Hiram Langstrom, a disgraced ex-surgeon struck from the rolls years ago for unethical experimentation in Arkham's old medical wing. His initials matched as well, HL. His last known address was a ruin in Burnley, but Arkham records suggested he'd vanished before his transfer. 2 suspects, both dangerous, both fitting the signature. Batman leaned over the files again, searching for nuance. Then he saw it, a surgical technique referenced in the notes, a unique incision pattern around the eyes. He dug deeper, pulling up medical journals until he found a match, authored by Henry Lyle. Batman's eyes narrowed. The writing wasn't just similar, it was identical.
The cuts,
Batman muttered.
they're his signature. He's not just leaving initials, he's leaving proof of his expertise.
Alfred exhaled slowly.
So the bright young doctor at Gotham General moonlights as a butcher.
Not a butcher,
Batman said, voice low.
a performer.
The realization struck hard. The surgeon wasn't killing for pleasure or even compulsion. He was staging acts. Each victim was another piece in a grotesque portfolio, and the theater he'd chosen was Gotham itself. Batman turned toward the Batmobile, cape sweeping behind him. He's planning something bigger. If he's preparing a performance, his stage will be Gotham General. The question is when. Alfred called after him, his voice edged with worry.
And if you're wrong?
Batman paused at the threshold, shadows swallowing his form.
Then another body drops, and this time, the city will be watching.
The cave roared as the Batmobile's engine ignited, its thunder joining the storm above. The surgeon had left his signature. Now Batman intended to carve his own. Chapter 8: A Trap in the Operating Room. Gotham General at night was a different beast. The day's chaos drained from its veins, replaced by a hushed tension that clung to every corridor. Lights buzzed low, monitors blinked in steady rhythm, and the scent of antiseptic fought an endless war against the stench of the city seeping in through cracked windows. From the rooftop, Batman studied the building through infrared lenses. Heat signatures moved across the wards, patients restless in their sleep, nurses pacing rounds, security guards idling at posts. And then, something irregular. A wing on the third floor, dark, yet pulsing faintly with activity. A theater not in use, but not empty. He moved. Grapnel hissed, cape spread, and in moments he was in the shadows of the surgical wing. Inside, the air was colder, sterile. Batman slid along the corridor, his boots silent against linoleum. He passed by doors marked Operating Theater 3 and Recovery. Most rooms were empty, but the third floor stank faintly of iron, blood, fresh and metallic. He followed the trail until he reached the last theater. Its observation window was covered by paper, but a faint glow bled through. He listened. Muffled sobs, the scrape of metal, a voice, calm and steady.
Don't be afraid. I'm going to make you beautiful.
Batman's jaw set like stone. He moved. A single strike shattered the lock. The door crashed inward, and the room unfolded in grotesque clarity. An operating table dominated the center, its harsh lights cutting through the dark. A young woman lay strapped down, eyes wide, gag muffling her screams. At her side, masked and gloved, stood a man in surgical whites, scalpel poised over her face. The surgeon. He turned at the intrusion, eyes gleaming behind clear goggles. For a fraction of a second, shock registered. Then it twisted into something else. Delight.
Ah,
He said softly.
the critic arrives.
Batman surged forward. The scalpel slashed, catching his gauntlet but sparing the woman. He swung, but the surgeon slipped back with surprising grace, moving like a man who had rehearsed this moment. Instruments clattered as trays overturned, steel flashing under the lights.
You see flaws.
The surgeon hissed, circling.
I see possibility. Gotham is broken, and I alone can cut it into something pure.
Batman's fist struck, grazing the man's jaw. The surgeon staggered, but did not fall. He grinned, blood trailing his lip.
You can't stop art, Detective. Not with fists, not with fear.
He hurled a tray of scalpels and fled through the far door. Batman tore the straps free, lifting the woman from the table. Her body trembled with terror, but she was alive.
Run.
He told her, voice low but firm.
Don't stop until you reach the guards.
She bolted, stumbling into the hall. Batman gave chase. The corridors blurred as he pursued, his cape lashing behind him, the surgeon's laughter echoing through sterile walls. The man moved quickly, ducking into maintenance corridors, cutting corners with the precision of someone who had memorized every artery of the hospital. Batman gained, but when he rounded the final bend, the door ahead slammed shut and locked. By the time he forced it open, the stairwell beyond was empty. The surgeon was gone. Batman stood in the silence, chest rising and falling, rain pounding against the hospital windows. He had seen the man's face now, sharp features, steady hands, the glint of mania behind surgical calm. And he had heard his voice, confident, certain. A surgeon with the hands of an artist, convinced Gotham was his canvas. Batman clenched his fists. The performance had begun, but this was only rehearsal. The surgeon had plans for something far larger, and tonight he had tested the audience. Next time, he wouldn't be interrupted. Chapter 9. Shadows of the Past. The files lay open across the Batcave's stone table like autopsy slabs. Batman moved among them in silence, eyes tracking every note, every scribble, every scar recorded in the surgeon's hand. His fight at Gotham General replayed in fragments, the glint of the scalpel, the steady grip, the calm voice that spoke of art while standing ankle-deep in horror. Alfred's reflection appeared in the computer's glow. He said nothing at first, watching as Bruce traced a finger over an old map of Gotham's hospitals. Finally, in his measured way, Alfred broke the silence.
You've seen his face now,
He said.
Does it match the doctor from the gala?
Batman didn't answer immediately. He zoomed in on a scanned blueprint, rotating it until old hallways aligned with newer ones.
It was him, Henry Lyle. His technique, his voice, everything fits. But
He stopped, jaw tightening.
it doesn't explain the history.
He pulled up another file, this one from Arkham Asylum's archives, its edges browned and brittle. Patient Experiments, 1986 to 1992. Buried in its pages were surgical records from the asylum's now defunct medical wing. Crude attempts at corrective operations on inmates carried out under the guise of rehabilitation. Inmates carved open, reconstructed, left scarred in the name of science. One name appeared repeatedly in the margins: Dr. Hiram Langstrom. Batman's eyes narrowed. Langstrom had pioneered methods of craniofacial reconstruction decades earlier. His license revoked after a string of malpractice suits, he vanished from the public record. But his notes, his exact incision patterns, mirrored the surgeon's work today. Alfred leaned closer.
Are you saying this Lyle fellow is imitating him?
Batman's voice was low, almost a growl.
Not imitating, continuing.
He pulled side by side the photos. Langstrom's victims, Lyle's. The lines were identical, as though one hand had guided the other. The question gnawed at him. Did Lyle discover Langstrom's notes? Or is Langstrom himself still alive? He turned back to the Bat computer, fingers flying over the keys, pulling up property records, asylum demolition reports, anything that could connect the two men. One file stopped him cold. Arkham Medical Wing closure, 1992. Officially condemned after structural damage. But the demolition order had never been executed. The wing still stood, buried in the asylum's northern ruins. Batman's fist clenched.
That's where he's been working. That's where it started.
The cave filled with the roar of the Batmobile's engine as he moved, cape whipping behind him. Alfred called after him, voice tight with concern.
Master Bruce, you've already confronted this man once. If he's truly working out of Arkham...
Batman cut him off.
Then he's not just another killer, he's a legacy. And Gotham doesn't need another legacy of Arkham.
Moments later, the Batmobile tore into the storm, its lights cutting through sheets of rain. Arkham Asylum loomed on the horizon like a corpse that refused to rot. Its broken towers clawed the sky, windows boarded, gates rusted. Yet inside, Batman knew, shadows lingered that refused to die. The surgeon hadn't appeared overnight. He was born in these halls, raised by the scalpel and the ghosts of Arkham's experiments. And if Batman didn't end it now, Gotham itself would become the next operating theater. The storm swallowed him whole as he crossed the bridge to Arkham, the city shrinking behind him. Ahead lay the ruins where the surgeon's past still lived, and where his future masterpiece was already being carved. Chapter 10. Betrayal in Blue. The Gotham City Police Department was a fortress of cigarette smoke, buzzing fluorescents, and tired men trying to hold back a tidal wave with paper cups. Batman preferred the alleys and rooftops, but tonight he stepped inside. The storm outside rattled the windows, as if Gotham itself wanted in. Commissioner Gordon sat at his desk, sleeves rolled to the elbow, tie loosened. His ashtray overflowed, the smell of burnt tobacco clinging to the office walls. He rubbed at his temples as Batman emerged from the shadows like a phantom.
You've been busy,
Gordon muttered, sliding a stack of reports across the desk.
2 more missing persons. Both last seen near the Narrows. Both fit the surgeon's victim profile.
Batman scanned the files, the faces staring back at him with silent accusation. Young, symmetrical, the kind of people a perfectionist would covet.
He's escalating, moving faster.
Gordon lit another cigarette. His hand shook just enough for Batman to notice.
I've got my detectives stretched thin. Media's circling like vultures. The mayor's office is on my back every hour.
He exhaled smoke toward the ceiling.
And you're telling me it's going to get worse.
Before Batman could answer, the office door creaked open. Detective Arnold Mercer stepped inside. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a jaw set like stone, Mercer was one of Gordon's most decorated men. He had a reputation for toughness, for following through where others backed down.
Commissioner,
Mercer said, ignoring the shadow in the corner.
we've got movement in Burnley. Informant says the surgeon's using the old warehouses along South Point. I'll take a team tonight.
Batman's eyes narrowed. Too neat, too convenient,
Burnley's a dead end.
Batman said, stepping into the light.
I've tracked the evidence. He's rooted in Arkham's ruins.
Mercer's expression didn't change, but his jaw twitched, just barely. Gordon looked between them, frowning.
That's a hell of a contradiction. One of you is wrong, and I don't like guessing games.
Arkham.
Batman said again, his voice like gravel. Mercer met his gaze, steady but sharp.
And what if you're wrong? What if you're chasing shadows while he carves up another victim?
Batman didn't flinch.
I don't chase shadows. I become them.
The tension thickened, rain drumming against the glass. Gordon finally raised a hand.
Enough. Mercer, you run your Burnley lead, but keep it tight. Batman, if Arkham's your trail, you'd better be damn sure.
Mercer nodded once, clipped and precise, then left the office. But Batman's eyes followed him until the door shut. Something in that nod was too rehearsed, too careful. Later that night, on a rooftop overlooking South Point, Batman found the truth. The Burnley warehouses were empty, but signs of recent staging lingered. Lights rigged, footprints leading nowhere, even a bloodied cloth planted for effect. A distraction, a false trail, and Mercer had led it. Batman clenched his fists, the pieces falling into place. The surgeon wasn't working alone. He had help inside the department, someone feeding him information, buying him time, shielding him from pursuit. The betrayal cut deeper than a scalpel. Gotham's rot didn't just live in its alleys and gutters. It sat in uniform, carrying a badge. High above the city, thunder cracked like judgment. Batman melted into the storm, his vow carved into the night. The surgeon had allies in blue, and betrayal would bleed like the rest. Chapter 11. Scalpel and Cowl. Arkham's northern wing was a mausoleum. The storm howled through shattered windows, rattling chains that still hung from rusted hooks. Dust coated the floor like ash, disturbed only by footprints that led deeper into the dark. Batman followed them in silence, every step echoing through the hollow corridors. He knew this place. He'd walked it years ago, back when Arkham still believed in healing through needles and knives. He remembered the smell, the screams, the promises of rehabilitation carved into inmates who never walked out the same. The surgeon hadn't built this theater. He'd inherited it. The footprints ended at double doors, once labeled Operating Theater A. Now the words were smeared with red paint. The Theater of Perfection. Batman pushed inside. Lights blazed to life, harsh and surgical, cutting away the shadows. The theater had been transformed. The old tiered seating stood above, but the operating floor was no longer for medicine. It was a stage. Spotlights focused on a single table in the center, where a man lay bound, gagged, trembling. Around him, instruments gleamed in careful rows. Scalpels, clamps, bone saws, each polished, each waiting. And standing beside them, dressed in immaculate white, goggles shining in the glare, was the surgeon.
Welcome, Detective,
he said, spreading his arms as though greeting a guest of honor.
I was hoping you'd come. Every masterpiece requires a critic.
Batman descended the steps, cape trailing behind him like a curtain drawn across the play. His voice was iron.
It ends tonight.
The surgeon tilted his head.
Ends. Number. Tonight it begins. You see, Gotham is flawed, bent, cracked, but with my hand, steady, precise, I can carve it into symmetry. Beauty through discipline, order through incision.
His scalpel flashed, catching the light.
This man, just the opening act.
Batman moved, a shadow cutting across the spotlight. His fist struck, fast and brutal, but the surgeon twisted away with uncanny agility, scalpel grazing across armor and leaving a shallow groove. Instruments clattered as the table shook, the victim screaming against his gag. The fight was a dance of precision and power. Batman struck with force, the surgeon with speed, each blow parried by gleaming steel. The scalpel slashed for arteries, for tendons, for the weak points between armor plates. Batman countered, gauntlets sparking as steel met Kevlar.
You think fists make you strong?
The surgeon hissed, circling, breath sharp behind his mask.
But you're like the city, ugly, broken, hiding under a costume. You fight chaos, but you are chaos. I can fix you.
Batman lunged, slamming the surgeon into the instrument tray. Metal scattered like shrapnel. The scalpel spun across the floor. But the surgeon was relentless. He snatched another blade, then another, wielding them in both hands like extensions of his madness. The clash rang through the theater, echoes bouncing off decayed walls. Batman drove him back, strike after strike, until finally he caught the surgeon's wrist, twisting until the bones cracked. The scalpel fell. The surgeon howled, eyes wild, but even in defeat, he grinned.
You can't stop the cut, Detective. Gotham wants it, needs it. I am only the hand. The city itself is the wound.
Batman slammed him against the table, gauntlet at his throat.
Then I'll cauterize it.
With a final strike, the surgeon crumpled to the floor, unconscious, instruments clattering around him like fallen applause. Batman freed the victim, who scrambled away, sobbing into the shadows. The theater fell silent, save for the rain leaking through the ceiling, dripping onto the blood-stained tiles. Batman stood over the surgeon, chest rising and falling, the weight of the city pressing against him. Another monster born of Gotham, another scar to add to its flesh. But the city wasn't healed. Not yet. Not ever. Batman bound the surgeon's hands in steel cuffs, dragging him from the stage of his performance. The curtain had fallen, but the scars would remain. Chapter 12. City of Scars. The storm broke just before dawn. Gotham's streets gleamed wet and black under the faint light of morning, the city steaming as though it had sweated out the fever of the night. The sirens had quieted, the reporters dispersed, the body bags taken away. But the scars remained, stitched into the city's skin like reminders it could never wash away. From the rooftop of the Gazette building, Batman watched as GCPD loaded the surgeon into an armored van. Shackled, drugged, his broken wrist bound in splints, Henry Lyle still smiled through the glass. The faintest curve of lips, eyes lit with an artist's madness.
Every scar is a signature,
he had whispered in the precinct, just before sedation.
and Gotham is my canvas. Even in chains, my work lives on.
Batman's jaw tightened. The surgeon would vanish into Blackgate or Arkham, locked in a cell like the others. But men like him never truly vanished. Gotham birthed them the way the tide brought in rot, inevitable, endless. A heavy tread approached. Gordon stepped up beside him, coat soaked, cigarette unlit between his fingers. He looked down at the van as it pulled away, exhaustion carving trenches into his face.
You stopped him.
Gordon said quietly.
For now.
Batman answered. His voice was low, rough. Gordon lit his cigarette, the flame flickering against the dawn.
City's breathing again. Papers will say we've cut the infection out. Maybe they'll even believe it.
He exhaled smoke, shaking his head.
But there'll be another, won't there? Always another.
Batman's cape rippled in the wind. His silence was answer enough. The commissioner sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose.
Go get some rest, will you? You look like hell.
But when Gordon turned, the rooftop was empty. Only the wind answered. High above the city, Batman moved across the skyline, every shadow his cloak, every rooftop his refuge. The night had been won, but the war endured. Gotham was a city of scars, each one carved deeper than the last. And he bore them too, not just on his flesh, but in the silence of his soul. In the cave, hours later, Bruce Wayne stripped the cowl and stared at his reflection in the dim light. The surgeon's scalpel had left a thin cut across his cheek, shallow but sharp. He hadn't bothered to stitch it yet. He touched it once and then let his hand fall. Another scar. Another reminder. Alfred stood nearby, quiet, but his gaze lingered on the mark.
It doesn't heal, does it?
He asked softly.
The city. Or you.
Bruce closed his eyes, the weight of the night pressing against him.
Scars don't heal. They endure. They remind.
He turned back to the screens, where reports of robberies, assaults, and killings already scrolled across Gotham's map. The city never slept. The surgeon was just one act in an endless play. The bat would always be needed. Outside, dawn bled across the horizon, painting Gotham in pale gray light. For a moment, the city looked almost peaceful, almost pure. But Batman knew better. Beneath the surface, the wounds were still raw, waiting for the knife. He pulled the cowl back over his head, shadows swallowing his face. The city breathed, broken and scarred. And so did he. But scars, he knew, could become armor. And armor was all that stood between Gotham and the knife.